IT outsourcing, many people think it's just about technology, process, system, sales, and consulting, if you get the pun. Well, it involves a whole lot more. Today, we speak to Dato Praba Thiagarajah, CEO at the Basis Bay Group, to find out what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I'm Ben Ibrahim, and let's put on our learning hat as this is Entrepreneur. Welcome to Entrepreneur. You're with me, Ben Ibrahim. Today, we're talking to Dato Praba Thiagarajah, CEO of the Basis Bay Group. Dato, thank you very much for being with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
No, it's not a problem. Thank you for making the time. We know how busy you are. But Dato, first question. Out of all the industries that you could have picked to run a business, why information technology?
One of the biggest, most sexiest industries I think one could be in would have to be the IT industry today. Almost everything we're doing is involving IT in one way or the other. And without a doubt, you're going to see in your industry, in the multimedia industry, it's amazing what's going on there. And I think I was very lucky to have the opportunity to move from where I was after I graduated to get into this space. And I think it's one of the nicest, and you know what you're seeing now is the tip of the iceberg.
Being the youngest, I was so busy with the first three going to school, I didn't send him to kindergarten. So when I took him to standard 1, he was put in a 3rd class. Then, that same year, in the first term he became 14. Then the second term he became 4th. And the 3rd term he became the first in the standard. See, after his Form 6, we never asked him to go give tuition. He himself went. The same thing he did in the uni. When he was uni, after once he's out of uni, he didn't wait for his results. What he did, he looked around for a job, and straight away within a few days he got a job. He was employed already.
Now, Dato, you studied many qualifications. Did it really help get you where you are today?
I don't think I studied that many qualifications, to be honest. But I think I've done enough. And I've had enough, and I continue to study. I did a degree in physics. I did a postgraduate in computing and information systems. I did a couple of business papers. I did a BCM, business continuity exam. I did a couple of master's level business papers, mostly from abroad. And I must say the business papers, you know, studying economics, studying finance and things like that a probable must for every entrepreneur. You know, you don't need to have the qualifications as such. I don't think that's...
But the knowledge.
But the knowledge. But the business angle is typically lost if you're too passionate about technology or on technical details, if you like.
You want to be successful. You want to have a business. You want to enter into business, not government service or something like me. I was a bit skeptic about it because I thought business is normally Chinese are the people there. And then for him to go into this type of thing, whether he can make it or not, you think what others can do, he also can do.
Now, you started this business in 1997, even though you registered in 95. Why during that time? Because Asian financial crisis.
Well, I worked in NEC as an engineer before, and then IBM as an engineer for a short while, and then I went off and partnered some guys, and I got into the business of trading computers. So very early on, the decision was made to get into some equity participation. You know, the truth be told, I couldn't become a sales guy. I had to wait a couple of years to become a sales guy in IBM. And so when I saw an opportunity to go out and try something on my own, I said this sounded really good. So we were already in a business which bought and sold new, used, pre-owned computers, if you like, from anywhere in the world. Despite the financial crisis, the regulatory requirements made it mandatory for financial institutes to have recovery sites. So it was the right time to get in, and we got in. So here's the bit that came in very handy for us, right? Because we tend to do better during a recession, because people look for alternative products than calling the proprietary vendors and saying, can you please buy, now I want to look for an alternative source. I need the same same capability, same power, etc. But I also need a better reduction in cost and greater efficiencies. They did not borrow any money from anyone. I was very successful as a salesman, so I had a fair amount of money, and I had, by that time, when I was wanting to go on my own, the early years, of course, I had a partner, and that partner had a fair amount of funds, so he had that. But when we split, I was completely on my own. So I had to manage that. And the big step was, I guess I had, whatever I had, I was willing to throw into the business. We managed to win a deal, a disaster recovery deal, with a couple of institutions. And you know, these contracts go for 3 years. So that funded the headcount that we employed, okay? And that funded the headcount. And then we needed a building to say that it was our own. If you're going to offer disaster recovery services, you can't come out and say you're renting this facility, and you needed to put gensets in it, and, you know, put a whole bunch of stuff inside it. So we were lucky enough to win a rental contract for some of our computers, which we then leased back as well, if you like. So we had a lease option. And that helped us with the capital required to do some of the renovations, etc.
But back to when you started the business, was there anything that you didn't factor in terms of overheads when you first started the business? Like an oversight, so to speak?
I think one of the oversights from financing or costing, we went abroad in 2000. We had an office in Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore. I'd always wanted to be global. So the opportunity came and for us to go abroad, which I quickly did. But I think in hindsight, perhaps we should have managed that a little bit better, because we shouldn't have worked the same model that we did here in those countries. You know, we used locals. We had locals in each one of those countries, but the modeling of the business had to be a little bit different. What works in Malaysia doesn't necessarily work in Hong Kong, Thailand. There's a whole brand perception which is different. There's a whole bunch of issues in the way people
different
do business.
Strokes for different folks. Yeah?
Different strokes.
Now, Dato, during the time of setup, how did you manage to convince potential clients to take a punt with a local player like yourself instead of a multinational corporation?
As a young entrepreneur, one of the things I did was I formed a society called the Business Continuity Society. I was one of the first people in Southeast Asia to get a certification on from the Disaster Recovery Institute.
Accreditation?
Accreditation. We also had Bank Negara to come to the vendor side and audit them, because it was still very early in the game.
Right.
And they weren't relying on the institutions themselves to look out. So Bank Negara audited us and gave us, you know, full marks, and we were certified. Then came Y2K. We partaked in Singapore. This was a feather on our cap, because Monetary Authority of Singapore very rarely had consultants from Malaysia supporting institutions in Singapore, and we did some work for some banks on business continuity and Y2K, the whole changeover, you know, that was a big thingy, and that helped.
There you have it. It's all about providing a good quality service. We're just going to take a short commercial break, but stick with us right here on Entrepreneur. When we come back from the commercial break, we're going to ask Dato how he managed to profit right here on Entrepreneur.